The HOA president stood on my front porch, with a clipboard in her hand and a smug smile on her face. "Pack your things. You don't belong here anymore," she said. I looked at the paper she pushed toward me. It was an HOA violation notice, but something about it felt wrong. "This is my home," I replied calmly. She laughed. "Your home? You're 24 years old. Everyone knows a kid like you can't handle a property like this. Your parents should have left it to someone responsible." Those words hit harder than the paper in my hand, because this wasn't just any house. This was the only thing my parents left behind before they passed away. The same house where my father taught me how to fix broken fences. The same backyard where my mother planted roses every spring. The same place where I promised myself I would keep their memory alive. But now, the woman standing in front of me was acting like she owned it. Her name was Linda Carter, the president of our neighborhood. She had built a reputation for controlling everything. She fined people for the smallest things, argued with neighbors over paint colors, and treated the community like her personal kingdom. But this time she picked the wrong person. "You can't just remove me from my own property," I said. Linda leaned closer. "Oh, I can. The A has rules. And you're clearly not mature enough to maintain this house." Behind her stood two board members holding cameras, recording everything. They weren't there to help. They were there to embarrass me. A few neighbors watched from their windows. Some looked uncomfortable, but nobody said anything. Everyone knew Linda had power, and nobody wanted to become her next target. She pointed at my driveway. "Your yard has weeds. Your fence needs repairs. Your mailbox is outdated. You've broken multiple HOA rules." I looked at the notice again. Then I noticed something. The dates were wrong. The signatures looked strange. And the biggest problem? The HOA rules she was using against me didn't even apply to my property. I slowly folded the paper and placed it in my pocket. Linda smiled, thinking she had won. "You have 7 days to leave before we take legal action." 7 days. That was her mistake, because Linda had no idea what was hidden inside my father's old study. After his death, I had spent months cleaning the house. Most people thought I was just a young guy trying to figure out life after losing his parents. But what they didn't know was that my father had prepared for something like this. 3 weeks before he passed away, he gave me a small locked box and said something I never understood. "Son, people will try to take what they think you cannot defend. When that happens, don't fight with anger. Fight with proof." At the time, I thought he was talking about life. I never imagined he was talking about my own home. That night, after Linda's warning, I opened that old box for the first time. Inside were property documents, old letters, and something that completely changed everything. A document that proved my house had a history the HOA never wanted anyone to discover. I kept reading until my hands started shaking. Because Linda wasn't just making a mistake. She was hiding something. The next morning, she returned with a bigger smile and 2 men wearing fake security uniforms. "Today is the day you learn the HOA always wins," she said. She didn't know I had already found the truth. She didn't know I had cameras around my property. And she definitely didn't know who my father was, and what connections he had left behind. Linda raised her phone and called someone. "Send the officers now? He's refusing to leave." My neighbors stepped outside as the tension grew. Everyone expected me to lose. Everyone expected the young homeowner to give up. But I just stood there and said one sentence that made Linda's smile disappear. "Linda, you should have checked who actually owns this land before you tried to steal it." Linda's smile slowly disappeared. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. The fake security guards looked at each other, confused. "Call the officers again," Linda ordered. "He's trying to intimidate us." But this time, she had no idea what was coming. 10 minutes later, a real police cruiser stopped outside my house. Linda immediately walked toward the officer. "Thank goodness you're here. This man is refusing to leave an HOA property." The officer looked at her, then looked at me. "Are you the homeowner?" "Yes," I replied. Linda laughed. "Officer, he inherited this place. He's young and doesn't understand the rules. The officer didn't answer. Instead, he asked me for the documents. I handed him the folder from my father's locked box. He read the first page, then the second. His expression changed. "Linda Carter? Do you know what this document is?" She crossed her arms. "Probably some old paperwork. The HOA owns this neighborhood." The officer looked at her. "No, the HOA does not own this property." The entire street went silent. He continued, "This home sits on a private parcel that was legally separated from the HOA decades ago. The previous owner removed it from the association boundaries." Linda's face turned pale. "That's impossible." "No," the officer said. "What's impossible is how you got these fake violation notices approved." Everyone looked at Linda. The neighbors who had been afraid to speak started whispering. Then I pulled out one more piece of evidence. The security footage. The video showed Linda entering my property while I was away, taking pictures, placing fake HOA notices on my door, and telling other board members that she would force the young owner out. The officer watched the footage carefully. "Did you know this was recorded?" Linda froze. For months, she had controlled the neighborhood by making people scared. But now everyone saw the truth. She wasn't protecting the community. She was abusing her position. Then came the biggest surprise. The officer looked at another document. This signature. "This is not from the HOA attorney. Someone forged these papers." Linda stepped back. I don't know anything about that." But nobody believed her anymore. The investigation revealed that Linda had been creating fake fines, changing HOA records, and using her position to pressure younger homeowners into selling their properties. She thought my age made me weak. She thought losing my parents meant I had no one standing behind me. She was wrong. A few weeks later, Linda was removed from the HOA board. The fake documents were destroyed. The illegal fines were canceled, and several neighbors came forward with their own stories about how she had treated them. One neighbor who had stayed silent for years finally walked up to me. "I'm sorry we didn't help you sooner," he said. I looked around the neighborhood and smiled. Sometimes people stay quiet because they're afraid. But fear only works when nobody speaks the truth. The house stayed exactly the way my parents left it. The roses in the backyard kept growing. The old fence my father built still stood strong. And every morning when I opened that front door, I remembered his words. People will try to take what they think you cannot defend. But they forget one thing. The truth doesn't need power. It only needs proof. And Linda Carter learned the hardest lesson of all. She thought she was removing a young homeowner from his house. Instead, she exposed herself in front of the entire neighborhood. Because she didn't lose to someone with more money or more influence. She lost because she underestimated the one thing she could never control: the truth.